Hi, this is Mary Kay. I'm about to demonstrate a sepia painting of a goat herder in Sudan. I did this sample card earlier this morning, and now I'm going to paint it on 1/8 of a sheet. So what I did was I took this photograph and I printed it on a piece of a copy paper, and I taped it down. I put a new piece of water-soluble tracing paper on my Kilimanjaro paper, and I traced out the goats, the goat herder, and the lines of the foreground and the midground. So it looks like this. So the next step is to mix up the sky color, which is going to be burnt sienna. I put a little bit of fresh burnt sienna out too, so I should get a lot of color when I touch my brush into this. Okay, looks good. All right, so what I'm gonna do is wet my sky. There's a little bit of burnt sienna in my brush now, so you can see that where I'm wetting it. There's a shadow across my paper. That is from the cup. Okay, good. So I'm wetting down to the horizon line, right over the sheep herder's thing on her head, which hopefully won't blur out too much. So now I'm going to take that nice burnt sienna puddle I got going, add a little more to it. Now I'm going to add a little bit of French ultramarine blue to it to gray it down. Because I want my sky to be sort of dusty. You can see there's a lot of dust in the atmosphere in this sky. It's a very light sky, but it's not blue at all, other than the little bit of French ultramarine blue in it. And I'm just gonna bring this down. I don't want to make it all perfectly smooth. I want to have some streaks in there. Okay, now the next thing I'm going to do is paint the sand in the foreground. And now this sand is very warm. So that sky was cool, and this sand is warm. That's pure burnt sienna that I have mixed up. I'm going to add a little bit of yellow to it and see if we can't orange it up some. That's getting really close. Maybe even just a tad bit of permanent rose. That's pretty warm there, like that. Okay, I'm gonna paint this wet onto dry on the bottom of this. So that means that my paint's got a lot of water in it, but my paper's dry. You can see that big watermark of the Kilimanjaro showing up. My paper's buckling a little bit because this is Kilimanjaro and not arches. And now what I want to do is I want to go to my round brush, and I want to start using the belly of the brush and sort of scratching at this. I do like the tooth of this paper. I have to say it's got a slightly more rough tooth than Arch's 140 cold press. I'm going right over those goats. while this is wet down here, I'm going to sign my name. I'm going to sign it over on this side to not compete with the figure in Kilimanjaro. So I sign it Mary K. S. period Jolly. And now while this is still wet, I'm going to take some more French and burnt sienna and make a much darker brown. And just using my brush, I'm going to take a little bit of the water out of it and just kind of brush it across this. To make it look like it's the rocks and all the pebbles and whatever all that is back there. I'm kind of losing my goats, but I'll put them back in. Now my next step is I'm going to add these back mountains, and it's the same color now. And I'm just going to paint them in freehand. I don't like this paper buckling up. So it's about here. These mountains are in the background, so they're very soft. I'm going to paint them down to about here, and then I'm going to add some more burnt sienna to this. So it looks like they're sort of up on a little plateau. I wish that were a little warmer even. That's better. And then this can carry all the way over to the edge of the painting. I like that. Now what I need to do is dry this so that I can paint my figures. I'm going to start with the big figure. I'm going to actually use a smaller brush. This is a number 2, but you can also use a number 4. I'm going to make some very dark paint with burnt sienna and French ultramarine blue, mixing it with a bigger brush so that I can make more of it. And if you want to just go even darker, you can add a little bit of neutral tint or sepia or indigo. Any of those will really quickly darken it to almost black for you. Okay, so I'm going to start at the feet. And the dress. Now all of a sudden I wish I didn't have such a little brush. Whee! And let's see, her scarf is here. That's her sleeve and her elbow. This paint should be dark enough to go right over that background. Here's the only problem with the water-soluble tracing paper is that it sort of disappears. So you just kind of have to make it up again as you go. It's a little bit. This is her head here and her scarf. In the photograph, the box on her head is not as dark as her dress. Okay, so now her hand. And then her sleeve. Almost got it. Let's darken this a little bit.
Back on the table. Big scary mama.
Okay, so there's that figure. And now the goats. They're just very dark, same colors, using the same colors. I'm going to start over here. So the legs, just keep the legs super, super skinny. As I make those fat. I think when we do this in class on Wednesday, what I'm going to have everyone do is retrace these marks with the pencil so that they don't disappear when they get wet. But I don't really want to use the non-water soluble tracing paper because then the marks will be too dark and sort of waxy. This guy has a leg coming out that way. Okay, now this guy. I don't know what they're eating. Those must be little desert bushes. tell what all the parts are, but just make sure you make the legs skinny. And this guy here. Trina, when she suggested this, suggested that we not put all the goats in, but I think all the goats are good. You put the body in, and then the legs are just like one little tiny brush stroke. And if they're too skinny, it's easy to just go over them again. Make two tiny little brush strokes. All right, got 2 more goats and some shadows. I love the butts are square. Those butts up in the air. Okay. I think this needs a little more scratchy in this, maybe not that much dark. And it needs to have more rocky kind of things. And a little foreground here where their legs are, so I'm really kind of putting in their shadows at the same time. And she needs a shadow, and her shadow in the sand is the warm color. So it just starts at her feet. Comes out this way a little, and then over here. And then right under the feet can be a little bit of a darker shadow. And then you can't really see the shadow underneath these goats, but there would be, they're there, and right under them and just to the left of them because of the way the sun is shining. I think that's it.